Reports. Reports can be something that take a lot of time, attention, and energy, and is often something that you have to do after the children have left. As a result, the writing process of reports can be quite tedious. So this video aims to support you with a range of different tips to help writing reports, whether this is your first time or your 20th time. Hopefully there's something in here that will help you with writing reports to make it a little bit of an easier process. So the first tip that I want to share with you is to obviously read the guidance. Your school will most probably release some sort of report feedback that they expect you to adhere to when you're writing your reports. The reason why I'm saying this is because in the past I have not read the feedback. That's not out of arrogance, that is simply because I've been at the school I'm at for the last 4 years, and often the reports are quite similar in the structure. When it came to COVID, as a result of that, I skipped through some of the crucial parts of the reading of that feedback and made some mistakes. So even though it took me a long time to write the reports, I then needed to adjust a lot because I had missed the crucial part where I needed to put in sentences about the COVID period and the children's ability to learn online. So that's why reading that is essential. They might also have specific ways that they like things to be phrased in reports. For example, rather than say, in my school, rather than say so-and-so needs to do this, they prefer so-and-so is encouraged to do this. And that's just something from my school, but different schools will have different ways of saying things. And it also depends on how they say certain subjects. So they might say mathematics instead of maths, and so on and so forth. From there, look at some of the examples. Your school may put examples of former reports in that specific report guidance. That can be extremely useful because you can start to look at previous years and how they expect them to look. At the same time, it can also help to look at a colleague's previous report so you get a good taste and a good understanding of what the language is like that they use in the school. That can help you tailor your reports to the needs of the school and then obviously to the children too, making it a little bit of an easier process and giving you some ideas. The next tip is start earlier. Now, I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. This is quite obvious if you've been working in a school for the last 5 years. It completely depends on how you work. Personally, I prefer to get towards the end of a deadline and then start working then because I've got a little bit of pressure to kind of keep me motivated and going. However, when it comes to reports, I've learned the hard way that starting early and chipping it off bit by bit can really relieve my stress because then on the build up to reports needing to be handed in, I don't have that pressure and stress in school because I'll have known that I've chipped away and I'll only have a certain amount left. In the past, I've finished reports early. It's probably one of the only bits of admin that I finish early, but I have done that in the past because I've been able to start early, finish it early, and then that makes things a little bit easier at the end of the year too, reducing my stress. Now, for you, you might not work that way, but I do know as someone who doesn't usually work that way, starting early, it does help me to start early, so it might do for you too. Next tip is to keep it personal. It's really obvious when the reports aren't personal and you might be that teacher who's copy and pasted from years before. That's obvious. It's important to keep it personal because then the parents know that you actually know the child, but sometimes being able to keep it personal can be a little bit of a challenge. One thing my school do is have these nice sections called magic moments, and in that section you integrate a specific moment from throughout the year that represents them highly. For example, a child who created something special throughout the year. Although this can be a challenge to memorize, I like to try and think of these throughout the year, again really starting early, and then that makes it easier to write the reports. Now, although we have magic moments as a separate section in our school, if it were me writing the personal comments, I would have that magic moment at the top of the personal comment because it sets the tone for the rest of the personal comments. I made the mistake this year with writing my reports where I finished with my magic moments, which kind of made it much longer to write them because I was then trying to really think about where those magic moments were coming from. Had I have started with those, it would have set the tone for me as a writer, really being able to help me with the report writing process. Next tip, collaborate with the children. Personally, I really think that the reports should have the children's contribution and integration within them. Some schools will have a specific section from the child writing about their time that they've had during that academic year, but I think as a representation of the child, the children should be able to share some of their favourite moments from throughout the year. That can really help with writing that first initial sentence that I would then call the magic moment, because then you get a better flavour of what they've valued throughout the year. Really try to collaborate with your children and don't just go off what you're trying to imagine, because I personally found that collaborating with the children can really help you to gain a better understanding of what you are going to write. Prepare your workspace. Everyone will have a different way of working. Personally, I like to be in a bit of a boxy room where I'm secluded away from everything, and that way I don't get distracted. I have to have quite a clear area so that I'm not fiddling with different things. When I sit down to write reports, I like to have things that I'm going to keep with me. Yes, it's okay to have snacks, and we'll get on to that. It's okay to have a drink with you, obviously. I like to really make sure I've set the scene for my working environment before I then start my reports. I think that's important because then I'm not getting sort of 5-10 minutes through the reports and going, cup of tea. I've got that cup of tea there and I'm not going to get distracted because I'm in that secluded room. I know obviously there will be other people who work differently. I cannot work with something on in the background, TV for example, but I know plenty of people who can do that. You guys are strange, but you do you. That's just my personal preference. Next tip is to be honest. It helps absolutely no one for you to write an absolutely glowing report for a child that you've had challenges with throughout the year. If that child leaves the school at the end of that academic year and goes to a new school and receives a glowing report, the next teacher is then going to start questioning their own practice. At the same time, it doesn't represent what you may have communicated with the parent in the past, and it also doesn't represent the honest demonstration of what the child has done throughout the year too. Being honest on reports is crucial and valuable, not only for the parent to try and support with their academic journey, but also for the teachers of the future. Next tip is to use comment banks. This is one of those, you can't use comment banks because that's not creative or original. I'm going to tell you a secret. Come on in. I've used report banks for the last 6 years of my teaching. Every year, pretty much give or take 1 or 2, I've moved year groups from year 5 to 6, 6 to 2, you get the idea. And now each year, I've struggled to write the maths and English sections of the reports. Sometimes it'll be science sections, and as a result, I've needed to go to comment banks to really think about some of the subject areas that we've covered throughout the year, to think about the finer, smaller steps that I can integrate into those reports. Having comment banks to support with that has really helped me. As I said at the start of the video, reports are often done at the end of the day when the children go. I can't explain how much energy I don't have at the end of the day. So trying to be creative and think about new, refreshing ideas can be a challenge. So to have a report bank available can really help with the process of going like, that's an interesting sentence. I can write that and adjust that in this way. So it might be something along the lines of, with a maths comment, writing steady progress to represent less progress throughout the year instead of exceptional progress can really help, whereas that might have taken me a long time to think about in the past. Comment banks really help, and they can really help with the personal comments too, to give you a range of different language that you could integrate into the reports too. Make sure you use them. I've used Twinkle Comment Bank for the last 6 years. That's been really beneficial and has lots of different sections to support with those children who have special educational needs and disabilities. They've got different year groups available on there. That's really good, but there's also some on test too, and I'll link those two in the description of this video for you. Copy and paste can actually be your friend. Now, there's obviously a bit of a taboo between copy and pasting comments from the year before and then adjusting them. However, I'm not on about that. What I'm on about is copy and pasting from previous comments, for example. So if I'm writing about using the 4 operations, such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, typing that out over and over again can be quite a struggle. So if I'm typing out a maths comment where I'm putting that in, being able to copy and paste that specific 4 operations comment can really help with that process, because you're still going to be using those words over and over again, but rather than type each word out, you can copy and paste that. So it can be your friend. Obviously, it can be a bit of a taboo too, so just be careful with that one, but use it wisely. Buddy checks. Buddy checks are important and a really key part of the writing process. If this is your first time writing reports in a new school or your first year of teaching, make sure you get someone to buddy check your reports after you've written the first 3. That way you get a good idea of whether your tone is right, whether you're on the right phrasing, stages, whether you're on the right lines with those reports, so that you don't get through the whole writing report process and then they turn around and really cut it to pieces. That's something that happened during my NQT year. I had lots and lots of feedback because I went away and wrote all my reports and then came back and lots of different parts weren't quite right because I didn't come with the first 3 and say like, is this right? And I had lots of different tweaks and sentences that I needed to change, which had I have come with the first 3 reports and asked that, I'd have been able to tailor that throughout the report writing process. If you're a member of SLT watching this, if all else fails, consider not doing reports. I know that there is statutory guidance that says that you need to do reports, but the way that reports are set in different schools really varies. Some schools do not have personal comments now. They will have specific feedback based on the academic progress that the children have made. They will have student written comments that reflect how they found the year, and then they really reduce the quantity of time taken for teachers to produce because then they're not having to sit down and write really lengthy comments for a range of different subjects, for a range of different personal topics. Yeah, that's a little rant. That's something that could hopefully be considered in the future. I know that there's a range of different schools who have adopted that process, and hopefully that's something that might be able to take place in the future. If you're a member of SLT, maybe consider that. My penultimate tip is, if in doubt, snack it out. Snacks can be a really key part for me of helping writing. You need to be careful of not obviously overeating, but yeah, snacks for me is a personal win. It can help me keep motivation. It's kind of like, write a comment, eat a sweet, write a comment, eat a sweet. If in doubt, snack it out. Let that be a key tip. And at the end of the day, my final tip is to remember that this is not the be all and end all of whether you are a good teacher or not. If you are writing your reports and putting a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself, remember you have done a fantastic job of educating the children in your class. So make sure that you go away with pride. This can be a lengthy process, but at the end of it, it will be rewarding and hopefully something that gives you a chance to reflect on the year that you've had and the tremendous progress that you and your class have made too. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, feel free to subscribe to the channel and see other videos of mine, such as CPD videos and other teacher videos too, to support you with your teaching journey. If you haven't already, go and check out my website, teachtraveltriumph.com, as I have a range of free supportive blogs and videos on there available too. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until then, I'm out.